This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest Short Shots, the podcast where we look exclusively at short films. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me, as usual, is our curator, Richard Halls.
Hello, everyone.
In this episode, we're looking specifically at fan films. On the Short Shots Twitter page, we have now posted links to 100 fan films. So in celebration of that, on our anniversary, we're looking at 10, which represent pretty much, not exclusively, but pretty much the cream of the crop. We're going to kick off
as far as comic book movies are concerned.
Indeed. Okay, we're kicking off with first impressions. Then we have Deadpool the Musical 1 and 2. Marvel Zombies versus Army of Darkness, followed by Ash versus Lobo versus the DC Undead. Then we have Nightwing, The Darkest Night, Riddle of the Mask and its sequel, Truth of the Mask. Then Batman Puppet Master, and rounding off with Pamela and Ivy. So without further ado, let's crack on. Our first shot of the evening is First Impressions. A young couple are enjoying their first date when some masked men suddenly attack them. Actually, they're not masked, are they? They're just hoods, just dudes, ne'er-do-wells.
Yeah.
Attacking this couple who, on their first date, just been to see a movie, talking about how, the guy is sort of saying how ridiculous it is that one woman can beat up so many guys in this film or something ridiculous, and soon gets proved wrong. In this sort of very quick, it's 4 minutes. This one. It's probably the shortest of the evening.
Yes.
But very well produced. Very, really good fight scene. I thought this worked really well. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I like it how it's one of those shorts that holds its cards close to its chest, and so there's a nice little reveal at the end. You don't really. It's one of those ones where
the character's never named, is she? It never actually says who she is.
No, not explicitly. No, it's
not
one of those.
Not even her alter ego. It's just like never actually referred to as name.
No, they just sort of hint at it. It's an approach that's been taken with a couple of the fan films that we've covered. So you may remember the Thundercats one called Margaret. Where it's only towards the end that you actually realise it's a Thundercats.
Only during the end music.
It's like towards. So it's the same was true here. And I watched another one recently called just slightly going off track, called I think it was called Resignation, and that is very similar to this in that it doesn't explicitly tell you that it's a fan film about a particular character. But as the story goes on and names are mentioned and certain things are revealed, you go, oh, okay, this is what they're doing here. And I think this one's a good one. It's directed by Kei Angelos, who's got quite a number of shorts that are worth checking out. Action-led kind of stuff. I thought that the action here is good. Some of it is a bit overly choppily shot. But overall, in terms of how the pacing of the short and the performances and the thrill you get from that revelation at the end, I think it all pays off really well. There's another film that's there's a few that take place in a similar situation of a young couple, sort of encountering bad guys or variations thereof. There's one called Night Watch. It's not a fan film. But it's starred Bray Grant, who we've seen as an actress and as director of the what was the film called where they went into the. You remember the one where it was like in a hospital?
Yeah, 12-hour shift.
12, yeah, I think that was the one. Yeah, so Bray Grant.
She's done a few things, hasn't she? Because she directed.
Oh, she's done tons. She was in Dexter and all sorts, and so she did this
really
short called Night Watch, which we've also put on the Twitter. It's out there, but do look it up if you haven't seen it. That's another one that sort of plays with the dynamics of expectations and a couple and a superhero thing going on, and so in a different way. And there was another film I think called Interpretation, I think, which is also a sort of encounter in a dark alley kind of movie. But there's not a lot to say about this one apart from, it's short, it's sweet, it's definitely a good little ride, and well worth checking out.
Absolutely, it's a good calling card, definitely, for the director. And all involved, actually. It's a very nice, tight little film. So that is First Impressions. I will say, as usual, we do not score the shorts, but we certainly recommend you check them out. And you will find links to all of these in the comments below. Not the comments. You'll find links to all of these in the footnotes below. Our next short is Deadpool the Musical. Deadpool enters a seedy bar and carnage and show tunes ensue. I had actually seen this one before, but I must admit I'd forgotten about it, and I was so glad to be reacquainted with it. It is just genius. So this is a musical sequence done to the tune of "There's Nobody Like." Is it Anton?
Gaston
in Beauty and the Beast. And it is brilliant. It is absolutely superb. Great little cameos sort of throughout. The lyrics are just very clever, and Deadpool does his usual quips, and the whole thing just really works. Very, very enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about this and the sequel we should together, because one of a sameness kind of thing. But the thing was, with the sequel, they basically went bigger, and they managed to they didn't just do one song, they did like 5 or 6. It was like a medley.
3,
Is it? I remember. I know in the credits there's like several sort of picked up on, noted that they.
Oh yeah, actually, you're right. Yeah, because there's the whole bit with the X-Men. I was like, I have no idea what song it is, but it is brilliantly done.
Yeah. I'll be honest, these are all Disney songs that they've used here, and I don't know most of the songs because I haven't seen the films.
Well, the first one is the Dwayne Johnson song from Moana.
Yes, which I know. I came to that one quite late because I had never saw Moana, but then I sort of heard the song a couple of years ago.
The second song is also from Moana, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, so what I mean, really impressive. I mean, production values. The way. I mean, the suit is perfect. I mean, this is. We'll talk about this in relation to something else in a bit, but the look and the feel and the performances and everything about it just fits the Deadpool movies perfectly. Yeah. I mean, you only have to have a look at I mean, you watch the film, you can tell, but at the end credits, the amount of stunt people that are involved in both of these. I mean, usually, you get something like First Impressions or some of the other films we're going to talk about. The stunt teams are very small. They're like very limited action. Yeah. This is just, full on complex action sequences. Like the first one, there's all sorts of movements and the timing. And I think the gunshots in particular just are so well timed and well edited. Yeah, and it's the timing, the comic timing, the action timing, all the timing, the performances are so fantastically done in both of these films. You would think it was part of the official canon. I mean, even the guy playing Deadpool is very close. He pretty much nails the Ryan Reynolds, performance. It's a great. I mean, they're cosplay kind of shorts, but which becomes apparent, it feels like a cosplay kind of thing when you get to the second one with all the X-Men and stuff, when you got so many and so to an extent in the first one as well, but more so in the second one, I think, because there's so many characters. But Deadpool himself looks exactly like in I can't remember, was it David Leitch did he did the second one, didn't he? And Tim something did the first one. But absolutely hats off to director Julian Higgins and the whole team who did those two movies. This was 2017, 2018 that they made these. I mean, even the cutaways, like to write Deadpool's housemate.
Oh yeah, the blind landlady,
the blind landlady or whatever. Even she is perfect. So you think it's just got the casting spot. Now I don't know if you noticed, but Casper Van Dien was in the second one. He plays Gambit, and I was wondering why, because it's a very blink and you'll miss it kind of appearance, and his wife plays one of the other characters who in the first one and the second one. Of the, I'm not sure if it's Psylocke or Black Widow. One of the trio basically who were introduced in the first short. So I think that's why he sort of said, "Oh yeah, I'll get involved as well." But it really ups the sort of increases the value. And we've got a version of Wolverine in here who's much more of the comic book version. So he's wearing the yellow costume rather than
because he turns up in the post credits, doesn't he, in the first one as well, but in more sort of like typical sort of like Logan.
It's in the one he's very much modeled on the Hugh Jackman, but in the second one, when you see him in full costume, they get him in full costume, and that's why I say when it get at that point when there's so many heroes on board, it does have that kind of cosplay kind of look and feel to it, where the budget becomes a bit more apparent. But that's that's fair enough. I mean, say this is just people making it for the love of it, and they've done a fantastic job here.
It's almost like somebody took one of the shows from at Disneyland, and then just sort of twisted it and just added like foul language and blood and guts, because it has that sort of level of production value to it. It's like a full it is like a full number from a musical for sure.
I could easily imagine this as like a like you get these Disney Plus shorts that that like they do The Simpsons and whatnot. You could easily have seen them doing this as, I mean, Deadpool had a short film as a prequel to the second No Good Deed, I think it was called, and that was, I think, a prequel to the second film. And you could easily see them doing a Deadpool musical, Disney sort of parody thing as like an exclusive for subscribers. As it is, we're actually getting a Deadpool 3 with Wolverine. So this is kind of this was kind of ahead of the curve on that bit as well, I guess. And I think what we're going to see in the next Deadpool movie will be lots of sort of Disney roasting gags, or at least a few, like we've had here.
Sure. So. I'm sure. There is that great bit, isn't there, when he sings like, "What do we do now? We're owned by Disney," and everyone just stops and goes, carries on. But yeah, really, really good stuff. Absolutely. Even if you're not a fan of musicals, I think you will enjoy this. It is very much in the spirit of Deadpool movies. Go check them out. They are brilliant.
And if you like Weird Al Yankovic song parodies and stuff, this is all. This is all great for whichever way you're coming at it. I mean, I'm not the biggest Deadpool fan in the world, but I appreciate the what they've achieved here, and it makes me really love the character. Actually, these shorts, I probably enjoy these shorts more than the movies that I've seen. I just think they really nailed it.
Cool. As I said, the links are in the footnotes below. Go check them out. Our next film is Marvel Zombies versus Army of Darkness. Gwen Stacy is rescued from marauding zombies by none other than Ash Williams and his trusty chainsaw. Interesting mashup, this one, Rich. So it kicks off with Gwen and a certain Peter Parker on the run with a certain box. Chaos ensues and Ashy Slashy comes to the rescue. There is some nods to the visual style of the Evil Dead films. So some nice sort of zoom cuts and close-ups of ears and things like this going on, which are fun. And the guy playing Ash, I thought was actually pretty decent. He got a lot of the mannerisms right. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. But I think of all of the films on the list, these are probably my least favorite. Mainly because, only because the others have such strong narratives, apart from First Impressions, which was quite slight. But the others are have really strong narratives. This has a great visual style and a lot going for it with the performances and the production values, but it is lacking really, a driving story to go with it, I feel.
Yeah, well, that's fair. I mean, it's basically a sort of a novelty. And I think, I mean, before, when I first saw this, I didn't know Marvel Zombies was actually a real thing. I thought it was like something that they'd come up with for the movie, or for this fan film, I should say. Brian Rosenthal is the right director, and what really surprised me, because I didn't really know what to expect. It introduces, say, the characters or whatever, and then it just basically sort of wipes them out, essentially, or at least one of them, and it was the horror, really the concept. I thought was really interesting. I mean, this is something only you would only see in a fan film. I think. I don't think you would get this ever. Although franchises are combining it left, right, and center. In some places, but
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I may be wrong here because I haven't seen it, but Marvel did that What If series on Disney.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure one of them was the Marvel Zombies one.
Oh, it might have been. But I was just thinking in terms of combining, like, with the Evil Dead universe. It's so unexpected, and like I say, the horror and the way that I think really, I mean, a bit like what we were saying before with the Deadpool movies. They've got a fantastic visual style. They've really nailed the costumes and stuff. I mean, the makeup and prosthetics and stuff in this in particular is really good, because we get
Zombie Logan, don't we?
We get Zombie Logan, and we get like Spider-Man. Ends up a bit worse for wear and stuff. And I think some really sort of jarring visual moments in it, and combining that with Ash and introducing certain other character pieces or bits of the Marvel universe, sort of bringing those in together. It all takes place. It's one of those fight scenes in a garage, basically, or a car park, which is quite a common setting for a lot of these things. It's always a back alley or somewhere where there's not many people around that you can shoot it quite straightforwardly. But I think David Von Hipchen, I think, is the guy playing Ash, who's also one of the producers, I think. I thought he did a really good job, trying to represent Ash Williams, because with all the others, it doesn't really matter, because they're all behind makeup or whatever, or they're playing. They could be anyone. Whereas here we've got someone playing a character who is recognizably played by a particular actor, and that's a hard thing. It's not like you're not doing like a Doctor Who fan film where you could be just anyone and I'm calling myself Doctor Who. This is or even Spider-Man. So many people have played Spider-Man, but Ash is so particularly known. And I thought, he does a bang up job. He really reminded me of Adam Scott, actually, the guy in he's done loads of films like Krampus and stuff. But he's sort of like a slightly tougher looking version of him. That was all well played, and Gwen Stacy I thought was really good as well. Or say all the nods, like you say, or the thing, and we're sort of I think that's probably a good point to sort of move on to the second part of the story, the second film, which was Ash versus Lobo and the DC Dead, which kind of takes it in an even more ambitious sort of direction, but still stays very, very close to the concept. A bit similar to what we just.
And very true to the Ash character as well. Because I think it ends by him sort of saying, there's only one thing to do in a situation like this, and then it cuts to the next film and he's running for his life, and leaving Gwen in the dust, sort of thing. It's like, to catch up. which I thought was very very much like Ash in the especially in the TV series.
Yeah, which I do need to see actually. So yeah, as the title gives away, in this one we've got, it's not Marvel characters necessarily this time, it's DC characters. So we've got Lobo as the specific one. Now Lobo is a funny one because he's not had huge exposure in the mainstream. He's appeared in, he has had appearances in, you know, the Superman cartoon series and other shows and stuff, but he's kind of one of those characters who's more of a fan favorite than actually a big popular. I'm sure it's only a matter of time before there's a Lobo movie or a TV series, but he's kind of on the fringes, I would say. He's kind of one of the darker characters. He's like a bounty hunter, and
he would have been perfect with Jason Momoa if they had if he wasn't already Aquaman, you know.
Yeah, exactly. He's definitely.
There you go.
Yeah. So
he could be the he could be the DC equivalent of Deadpool, basically, if they wanted to go down that route, it's sort of more profane and carnage filled sort of film. Then
he's very much kind of an anti-hero-ish kind of villain. You know, he's a villain, but sometimes he's the sort of unlikely hero. And so we've got him, but we've also got Green Arrow in this one.
Yep. And
Batman turns up as well. And so the scale got like with the second Deadpool one, the scale goes up, so the running time is a bit longer. There's a bit more variation in the location, so we kind of introduce a bit we get to see Ash in a work in a store.
Well, no, it's interesting because that mirrors the American ending of Army of Darkness.
Yes.
Which was really cool. Yeah, I really liked that bit. I thought that was really superb as well. Really, really well done.
Yeah, and we've also got some, the stuff with the Necronomicon, which they actually sort of focus in on, and it actually sort of tries to bite him and stuff, which I thought was really, really cool. It fits really well. So they're very much of a, you have to watch both of them really. I mean, they're a pair, and they both basically do the same thing. But it's great fun seeing what they do with some of the characters and combining that horror, combining those horror elements. I mean, this is Batman like you've never seen him before, I think it's fair to say. And even he's not in it a lot, but he does appear. And the stuff with some of the other characters is all really well done. And it's novel to see Lobo. There is another Lobo short film that is well worth checking out, which I think it's called the Lobo Paramilitary Christmas Special or something like that. It's from quite a way ago. Andrew Brianarski, I probably pronounced his name wrong, but he's like a massive guy who appeared in a lot of big budget movies and stuff. Films like Black Mask, big budget and medium budget. So he's sort of done things like Black Mask 2 and all sorts of other stuff. And they got him in to play Lobo in that, which is quite fun, sort of twisted take on sort of Christmas specials and stuff. And that's like a similar length. It's about 10 minutes or so. But I would say this is probably the best iteration, I would say, that I've seen of Lobo in any, officially or unofficially, because he hasn't, unless I've missed it, and he's been in like the Arrowverse and all sorts of stuff, and which is quite possible. If set me straight, because I'm very not familiar with the Arrowverse or any of that CW stuff. So it's quite possible that he has made appearances that I'm not aware of. But I thought in terms of what my experience, I thought this was great, and the version of flipping heck, there's Green Lantern references as well. I forgot about that. There's loads. There's so much in here. They really try to fit in a lot.
And that was another great Ash moment as well, where he's like, I know the words, don't worry. That sort of stuff. It is great. This is a great mashup, and it serves the all the characters really well. The various franchises. It does the best it can to sort of put them all in in the limelight, and make a good show of themselves. So
yeah, it's a 21 minutes minus credits. You know, it's not a lot of time at all to try and pack so many characters in. So you've got to take my hat off. The first one was only 8 minutes, so this one's over twice as long. So yeah, you put the two together, and you've got a great half an hour.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely check these out. You'll find links in the footnotes. Excuse me. Definitely check these out. You'll find links in the footnotes below. Our next short is Nightwing, The Darkest Night. Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing, returns to Earth after a stint as a Green Lantern, only to receive the worst gut punch of a welcome home. Okay, so this is quite an ambitious film. So unlike First Impressions, this puts the Super Friends front and center, shall we say? Yeah. So we got the likes of, I guess it's meant to be Superboy rather than Superman that's in this one.
Yes, I didn't know that until I checked the credits, though. But
yeah.
I wasn't quite sure what they were doing there. But yes, I'm not overly familiar with the Superboy characters. So.
Yeah, but it sort of riffs on, I don't know, a little bit of the Killing Joke, I guess.
Yeah.
As well. Now the owl is an interesting character. It's one I've only heard of. I haven't actually come across. I know there's various, well revered graphic novel. I think it's Night of the Owl.
Yeah, the Court of Owls, I believe.
That's it.
Known as.
Yeah, so presumably quite a formidable foe. You don't actually see them in the film. But they are the sort of the people sort of like moving the pieces, shall we say? They're the ones behind what's going on, and it also sort of riffs on I think it was the sort of season 1 finale of Teen Titans, where Dick Grayson had to go up against try and prevent Batman from doing something. But it is very good. Again, really strong sort of production values that cover sort of quite brutal sort of fights. There's some wry dialogue from some of the henchmen, which I thought was pretty cool. We got Harley Quinn in the mix as well. My favorite part of this actually is when you see Batman sort of limping out of this sewer or something, sort of storm drain, and some thug thinks he's going to take him down because he sort of sees him limping and, oh, you look in bad shape there, and he just rips him apart. And it's like, yeah, even when he's at his worst, you're no match for him at all, which I thought was a good reminder. So yeah, this was a bit different, bit sort of more downbeat than some of the others we're looking at, but very effective all the same.
Yeah, it's a very dark story. I mean, the costume, the costumes are more cosplay in this than some of the other others like Deadpool and stuff. But I think it still works, and especially the cinematography and the story. They've got a real compelling story here. It's just over 20 minutes long. Directed by Matthew Campbell, with Brady Roberts playing Nightwing. Now I believe this is like not necessarily a follow-up, but sort of like a later project, because I think he played Nightwing in a web series before. Oh, right. I haven't seen that, so I don't know if the two connect or whether it's the aesthetic could be quite different in that. I'm not sure, but yeah, I love the action is what sort of drew me in on this one. As soon as sort of like Nightwing sort of kicks into action, the choreography is top notch. It's really excellent stuff. But also the scale of it. There's lots of different locations, lots of loads of characters. As you've mentioned quite a few. I mean, I loved Stacey Roy's interpretation of Harley Quinn. I thought she was great. We've got a very different. This would be a common theme, but there's quite an interesting interpretation of the Riddler. He's probably one of the least Riddlers I've seen. I had to sort of check that he was the Riddler, but there's others in there as well. There's references, and and stuff. Say Oracle, who was, I believe, Barbara Gordon.
That's right.
Barbara Gordon became Oracle.
Mm-hmm.
But it is the story and where it goes and the darkness of the action and everything, which, as you've just mentioned, this preceded Titans. I mean, it's sort of set up, sort of foreshadowed Titans by, this was 2015 and Titans was 2018. And yeah, when you get to the end of this movie, it's not unlike where Titans went, but also more in terms of the overall darkness and the intensity of the action that they were doing, the sort of the ferocity of it, and not being, sort of being a bit more R-rated kind of Batman, not in the sort of darkness of like a Christopher Nolan but sort of more gritty. And I did really enjoy that first series of Titans as well. So if you have seen that, and you have, if you're somebody who's seen Titans but you've not seen this, I think you'd be very interested to check this out as something that sort of not necessarily paved the way, but you do wonder if somebody sort of took notice of it to some extent, because there are such close similarities to it. Well worth seeing.
Absolutely. I did check or tried to check to sort of see if Dick Grayson ever was a Green Lantern. Apparently not. So that's a nice, interesting twist.
Invention.
We're going to come across some other sort of interesting inventions later on in the episode. That was a nice sort of segue, I think, to sort of say, to set up why he wasn't there for what happens at the beginning of the film. But very, very good stuff this was. So please go check it out. You'll find a link in the footnotes. Our next short is Riddle of the Mask. The Huntress, aka Helena Bertinelli, finds herself kidnapped by Edward Nygma, the Riddler, who wants to find out the secret identity of the Batman. We got two shorts coming up here, which are linked. Two Batman shorts without Batman appearing in either of them.
No.
Which is brilliant. I mean, these two are really well done. So we got the Huntress and her boyfriend being held captive as the Riddler. Demands to know who she thinks the Batman is, and she tells him, which is like, okay, which is quite interesting. But it's just really good. It's a really well scripted short. It delves into the psyche of both the Huntress and the Riddler, and comes up trumps, I think.
Yeah, what I like about these is that they go in a different direction to some of the others, and in that it's that thing of doing a Batman film without Batman, which is quite interesting. Some others have done it. We'll talk about one later, but it's the sort of the lack of action as well. It's very these are conversation pieces, very limited cast, not driven by actions, just sort of getting into sort of some interesting characterization, and trying to do like mind games and discussions of the ethics and also of some of the actions and things that they're taking, and who's the good guys, who's the bad guys, and trying to I don't know, sort of not toy necessarily, but sort of there are definite mind games and stuff going on. And what's
trying to
going
get out
on.
the upper hand, aren't they? I mean, it's interesting because sort of the Huntress is basically tied to a chair and about to be electrocuted, but still manages to sort of twist things around, even while still tied up, which is really impressive. Really good bit of writing. And that segues.
There's a little bit of action in this one, which like chair gets sort of kicked over in the chair, but we don't get that in the second one. The second one, I don't think there's any action in it at all.
Yeah.
But what in this one, what we've got is it's very sort of cheap. It's sort of shot in a very black room. it's two people essentially, and you just get that. It's established. It's those character performances, and I think we've got another interesting take on the Riddler here, and
the
and
notes,
also the Huntress, who I wasn't familiar with.
I think on IMDb it does point out that this is an aging Riddler. You know, he's been around a bit, basically, and he's trying to sort of still be relevant, shall we say, in Gotham's crime world. And you know, this is going to be his big coup sort of thing. But it sort of moves on to the second film, the Truth of the Mask. In this one, Bruce Wayne is confronted by both the Huntress and the Riddler, who has a final ultimatum for him. So basically, no, they're both invited, aren't they? They don't gate crash. Yeah. They're actually sort of both invited to turn up. So we get to meet Bruce Wayne, which is quite rare in itself for these short. Even some of the bloody Batman films, you know. But yeah, we've got, I don't know who the guy is who plays Bruce in this one.
So this is Kevin Porter, who's played Batman in quite a few. Remember. Quite a few fan films. The Bat in the Sun film "Dying Is Easy" was his most recent, and that was. I mean, there's a little. It's not the same production creative team, but Aaron Schonk, who made that, who's the main guy over at Bat in the Sun, he does appear briefly at the end of this short. So there's clear. I don't know if that's sort of where they met or something, or whether I mean, I've got a feeling it goes back even further. Actually, I think he's been working with the different film producers for quite a number of years. Yeah,
he's got the perfect voice for this.
Yeah, well, he's normally under a suit. You never normally see him as Bruce Wayne. So that's what's one of the really interesting things about this, is that he only plays Bruce Wayne. He's actually just playing. He's just not having to suit up or anything in this, and he's just sort of laying his cards on the table and having sort of quite interesting, sort of frank conversation. One of the things I don't think works about this is that it's taking place during a party and people are in such close proximity that they would absolutely hear everything they're saying. But it's a nice little novelty that sort of compares well with, contrasts to the first film, which didn't have anybody around, and this one's got loads of extras sort of gathered around. It's a much, it's a well lit room and stuff. I
want to mention that as well, because the thing is, yes, you're absolutely right. The first one. It's set in a very sort of darkened room, but it turns out there's reasons for that.
Yeah.
Within the actual story, the way it sort of twists brilliantly. So yeah, you're right. So this one it's more, there are more people around. It is sort of a bit more busy. It works really well.
Yeah, he's also Kevin Porter, who's I didn't know this until sort of checking him out for this, but he was in Dodgeball. Right. He was one of like Ben Stiller's team. It was called I think it was called Laser. So he's been around for quite a while, doing sort of character roles and stuff, sort of background. But around the time that he did Dodgeball was, I think, when he started doing the Batman shorts. He did one called I'm just looking it up, Patient J, back in 2005. That was actually I'm now checking it. That was an Aaron Schonk one. So he's been working with. He's clearly been working with the same guys for quite a long time. And what I think's quite interesting with all the films that he's done is that there's not a continuity between them. They all kind of stand alone. It's like Dying Is Easy doesn't really. It's not the same Batman, sort of world as some of these other shorts, and this included. City of Scars is another one, and I think it's rare that you get an actor to play Batman multiple times who gets to do different things with the role. So I think he's quite obviously he's not as high profile as as a lot of the others, and he's not going to be turning up in Ash or the sort of the No Way Home-ish kind of thing they're doing there with the different Batmans. But that would be really cool if he did.
Yeah,
that would have been excellent. So what we've got here is it's not these aren't my favorites. I do prefer the more action heavy ones. I mean, Dying is Easy's got some absolutely fantastic fights. If people haven't seen that, it's also got people like Michael Madsen in it. But this, I think, Huntress really steals these two. She's I'm not sure who's the actress playing Huntress is. If you can pick that out for me before I hang on, Huntress. I've only got I don't know what her real name is, so I can't find her in the IMDb of what.
2 seconds. Yeah, it is Charissa Severio. Okay.
Yeah. So Charissa Severio is great as Huntress, and also Beau Marie as Riddler. I'd say I think they both deliver great performances as these characters. They're doing some really interesting stuff in the second one with the Riddler in particular. So again, really interesting to see a different take, doing something different with very modest resources, but they've managed to sort of create something really engaging and interesting.
This is really interesting, actually. So Charissa Severio, he's also known as DJ Rap.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard. I mean, I've got her album. Funny enough.
Oh, okay.
She's really into sort of trance scene and stuff like that. So it's really interesting to see her in actually acting as well. But that's really bizarre. Unless that's a complete error by IMDb, but there you go. Very strange.
She's been on soundtracks to films like Go.
Yeah, exactly. That's how old the album is. I must admit, first album.
Yeah,
she's done loads, drum and bass stuff and all sorts.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, yes. So that is Riddle and Truth of the Mask. Both very good shorts, just not action-packed. They're more sort of cerebral, but very well scripted, very well acted. Both of them.
Palette cleansers, I'd say.
Yeah, go check them out in the footnotes below. Our next short, Batman Puppet Master. The Puppet Master makes a deal with shady FBI agent Edward Nygma, who wants to find out the truth about Harvey Dent's death. Now, this is one of my top 2 films of this list, Rich. The idea of having Edward Nygma as an FBI agent is inspired. It absolutely is. I absolutely loved the idea that he started out life as an FBI agent and kind of went rogue. He has this brilliant bit of dialogue in here, and he says something like, the identity of Batman it's a riddle. You can't catch a riddle, you have to solve it, which is a sort of really nice bit of writing there. The Puppet Master. So it's interesting as well. This is the second short we've looked at on either here or on the DTV Digest. The other one was the animated film Broken Promises, which both featured Harvey Dent and the Puppet Master. And the portrayals of the Puppet Master in both, I think, are absolutely superb. So you got this sort of like old man who's like really sort of scared and quite sort of subdued and demure. And then you got the voice of Scarface, the puppet. I thought that was absolutely brilliantly done. The timing of it is superb all the way through. This just, it just fires on all cylinders all the way through this one.
Yeah, and what's great, I mean, this is a film that was made to reflect and fit within the Christopher Nolan
Yeah.
interpretation of the Batman. And I think that with their limited resource and everything, again, but like what I was saying earlier with the Deadpool movies, they absolutely nailed it. This feels completely authentic. Yeah, sure, it hasn't got some of the bells and whistles in the budget side of things, but it feels totally fitting within that world. You know, like it is a follow-up, like it is a sort of a side story to you know, in between The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which was when this was made. This was 2012, and it was made sort of in the wake of. So there's lots of references to Harvey Dent and all that stuff. It's all following on from the plot of the first two of those two movies.
Yeah, because he got Enigma sort of like, you know, searching for that gun, you know, which has been hidden in the evidence pile, sort of, you know, because it's, you know, it's got Harvey's fingerprints on it, you know, and it was used in a few murders, which is brilliant, you know, the fact that doing that, and then the, you know, the conversation he has with Batman as well, and he's like, oh, you refer to him as Harvey as if you knew him, you know, all this sort of stuff. Just really, really clever, you know, solid writing. It was, just absolutely superb. And
it even starts out with a you know, the title comes up, it doesn't say Batman, it has the sort of logo, the sort of impression of a bat, you know, like Christopher Nolan was doing, where he wouldn't put the actual title or whatever, he just sort of put an outline or something, and then they put the title as Puppet Master, and then the, you know, the fans, you know, who've watched, you know, and who've very familiar with these characters will probably know where that's going from the start. Yeah. But initially, you don't know what it's referring to, and actually, it has multiple meanings. And the introduction, I'm with you. I think the interpretation of Edward Nygma, you know, the Riddler here is really great. That, you know, the idea of putting him forward as an investigator, and, you know, he's kind of driven off the rails by an obsession with, you know, uncovering who Batman is, because that's one thing he hasn't been able to solve. And yeah, all the little, a bit like what they did with the Marvel Zombies movies and stuff, all the little Easter eggs and stuff that they put in, the references and that to other characters. Well.
You know, the way that the equipment where he uses it's basically a Wi-Fi router, isn't it? But they sort of like jazz it up to be something else. So you know, to sort of like locate people so he can throw his batarang at them. I thought that was really, really cool. Really good little gadget.
Yeah, and Batman is in this. I mean, it's, I say, we've got to focus on Edward Nygma, and he's meeting. It reminded me of the, you know, when the Joker goes and meets like Michael Jai White and all that lot in the Dark Knight. So it's a conversational sort of piece in the warehouse, but there's cutting back and forth. Batman is dealing with Victor Zsasz, who's I can't remember. I don't know a huge amount about the character, but he's like a serial killer kind of character, basically. Yeah, I think, and he's kind of tussling with him, and and the guy playing Batman is in like a proper Nolan style bat suit, which I say all adds to the authenticity. I think the sort of, you know, the interpretation to try and bring some of that Christian Bale kind of performance through, I think works well. And yeah, this has kind of got it all, really, because it's got multiple scenes, lots of sort of cross-cutting between them, lots of tension built up, lots of interesting stuff being brought up in the conversations, but also some really nice little bits of action stuff. And there's a great making of video that director Bryan Nest has also put out on the channel, which will probably, if you watch the film, it will probably pop up as like the next thing to watch. That's well worth watching, because there's lots of really interesting little sort of stories of how they got certain shots, and, you know, and certain things that they wanted to do but they couldn't because they just didn't have the resources to do it. So some of the bigger scenes of Batman's, you know, Batman coming in, getting involved in the action stuff, some of those couldn't be quite as big as they wanted, or so they had to sort of find ways around it. So I mean, This was made in I think I mentioned 2012. I would have loved to see them do something else, but he's kind of, as with a lot of some of these filmmakers, they kind of almost like one and done. They sort of tend to really more focus on original projects rather than fan films. But I think if ever they were to do, and maybe this was I don't know if this was an impetus for doing it, but you know, if ever they were to continue the Christopher Nolan interpretation in different hands, you know, whether that was on TV or you know, direct to video movies or whatever it could be, Bryan Nest is the guy to go to. I think he's done something cracking. I mean, this really does. I think you couldn't make a film that fitted better into that aesthetic.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, we urge you to check this one out. We urge you, if you haven't seen it before. It's been knocking around a while. If you're a fan of Batman, then, you know, like Broken Promises, which is another favorite of mine, and just coincidentally also has the Puppet Master. Please check this out. You'll enjoy it. Our final film is Pamela and Ivy. This film charts the origins of poison ivy. Abducted at a young age, Pamela coped with her ordeal with an imaginary alter ego and an affinity to plants. Right from the off. Now, actually, before I get into that, you know, I was in two minds which film to end on, either this or Puppet Master, because my God, these two films are superb. And right from the off, you know that you're in good hands, because we've got bloody Eric Roberts.
And it's not just Eric Roberts. It's Eric Roberts really bringing his A game. I'd say
bringing it. Yeah, he's not just being. He's not his usual sort of smarmy, dodgy character. Here, he's full of menace. You know, he's an absolute monster in this. You know, during his short scenes, the bit in the diner when he's asking for the check, well, demanding the check off the waitress. You know, that was awesome, basically. Yeah, masterclass. Yeah, it's one of those sort of tragic films. You know, you can sort of see the, shall I say, the seeds of poison ivy being sown quite early through this horrible ordeal that she's put through. Which leads to this sort of, you know, split personality, or this alter ego, sort of goading her on a bit. But it you know, it takes it further. It keeps going, and we, you know, we get the full character by the end of it. It doesn't sort of fall short. You know, we get the full poison ivy, which is great.
Yeah, it's told over just 16 minutes, and it covers a lot of ground. Eric Roberts has done, I think when I checked his IMDb, he's actually done like 50 plus short films, which you wouldn't realize, but I'm pretty sure he's done something in that region. And I've been trying to find as many of those as I can. Not a lot of them are available, but I found a few. And Roberts gets kind of a bad rap. I don't know. He kind of brings it on himself. Some of his roles are, you know, he's just in so many things, and he's one of those people who you just hire cheaply to do almost like a cameo kind of. Yeah. And when I say cameo, I don't just mean cameo. I mean like cameo as in like the service that you can hire someone to say, oh, hi. It's almost like it's shot on the phone or something a lot of the time. But in some of these films, he's really sort of doing some really interesting stuff. Here, he's like you say, he's a really bad character, and he really sells it. He did another superhero-based film called Play for Keeps, which we covered, which was the Gambit film, which he was really good in that as well, but playing a much more typical Eric Roberts sort of slimy bad guy. Now, interestingly, Eric Roberts also has a history with the Batman series. He was in Batman Begins, I think it was, wasn't he? Or was it the second one? Was it the first one or the second one? It was Dark Knight he was in. Yeah. So yeah, as Maroni, wasn't he? So yeah, so he gets to sort of play around a bit more in the in the sort of the DC universe. This isn't like the previous film. This isn't trying to ape or copy another style. This is kind of a standalone project by the writer-director Leah McKendrick, who also plays the adult Poison Ivy later in the film. But it's really that first part. I think that, I mean, the second part is where we get the full transformation and a nice little convenience store action sequence. Which is a nice sort of throwback to old action movies, which always had an action scene in a convenience store. Yeah. But for me, it's that first part with Aria Lyric LeBeau playing Pamela and Ivy as a youngster. I think she's fantastic. I mean, it's an excellent child performance. I mean, she holds her own with Eric Roberts. They play off each other really well, but when she's on her own or when she's playing against herself, all that is fantastically handled, and obviously that's all down to not just her performance but also the writing and the directing and stuff, and how that's pulled off. But that's one of the best child performances I've seen in quite some time.
That whole stuff with the plant shoot coming through the garage floor and stuff, it was just so well done. It was very touching. It's an awesome short, and it does exactly what you want. It gives you the origins, but it also gives you the payoff. It doesn't sort of there's been a lot of these things, even something like Smallville, will cut off just before you get to the actual maturation of the character. But here we sort of get, yes, this is Poison Ivy. This is who she is. But it's very playful when she gets to that stage. It's just and there's a little bit of her where she's sort of like she spots the girl watching her, so she makes a point of not killing the guy. Which is sort of a nice little touch as well. She's definitely an amoral character, but there's sort of shades of grey in there.
Yeah, and that's, I think, a lot of what we're seeing coming out of, the comic book world is, the projects that deviate, say we're not focused on the character you've been, looking at for years or whatever. We're going to take this other character who's only ever had this one dimension, and we're going to try and, humanize or take them in a different direction or do something. And whether that's as an arc in a TV series or as a standalone project like a book or whatever it is, or something like this, I think there's lots to explore. And when you've got talented filmmakers like this who are investing a lot to try and do something, because they can't make money from these things, because they're bound by copyright limitations and stuff. So they mustn't be, they have to be presented in a certain way, and limited. You can't make profits and stuff from them, as far as I'm aware. So
they all have that slapped at the front, don't they? So this is non-profit, and we're not affiliated with any of these products, basically.
Yeah, but what it does do is, I think, because there have been conversations like this in the past of like, why would people do this? What's the well, one is, I think some people just really love the stuff and they just want to contribute to the mythology and put their own spin on it. And also, this kind of thing can really get you noticed. If you're using IPs and stuff, you might not make any money off of it, but you capture people's attention, and that can lead to things in the past. Now, it doesn't always happen that way. So like with if there was any justice, I think like Bryan Nest would be doing a Nolan universe sort of Batman movie full feature or something in a similar vein. And I think with Leah McKendrick, maybe having the chance to flesh this out even more, because this isn't a proof of concept. This is a full-fledged story, beginning to end, multiple scenes, different locations, all sorts of stuff. It's a condensed, what I consider a condensed feature. So you get to follow from beginning to end, and you could say that's proof concept, but it's not intended that way. But if they could get the backing, if somebody came to them and said, I think it'd be great if they went back to them and said, we'd love to see you do this officially, and sort of take this in a feature direction. That doesn't usually happen, unfortunately, but what a great movie this is.
Absolutely. And we again, like the Puppet Master, we urge you to check this one out. If only for Eric Roberts actually sort of putting in such a menacing performance. You'll find a link to this in the footnotes below. And that is the end of this special episode. 100. So is it 100 fan films or 100 comic book fan films that we put on there?
No, so it's about 100 fan films, period.
Right.
So lots of other stuff, including horror stuff and everything. What we've done here is we've just sort of focused on the comic book based stuff. But in a future episode, who knows? We might do a slasher movie one or something.
Yeah. Again, I was going to say, because we've done Star Wars, we've done sort of Friday the 13th and Halloween and things like that. I'm sure there are others.
There's so much out there.
Constant, Friday the 13th films sort of coming out. So, but these have been all really enjoyable. Even the zombie ones, absolutely superb. Production value is just not as much story as some of the other films we've been discussing, but they are, the cream of the crop, and we urge you to check them out. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter at the DTV Digest, and also the Short Shots, where Rich puts a link to a new short every evening. Thank you for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.